Alrighty, let's just dive into it. So, hi everyone, my name is Bo. I'm the Inclusion and Belonging Lead here at Tiimo, and super excited to be here with y'all today. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions that you want to ask throughout, you can ask them in the chat, but the most surefire way to make sure that we see them is to ask them in the Q&A function. That should be at the bottom of your screen. You can use either though throughout. I'm going to be Gina's tech person, so I'm going to make sure to write down any of the questions that you have so that we can ask her all of our questions in the Q&A at the end. And yeah, I am going to introduce Gina. She is a renowned ADHD leadership coach who's dedicated to supporting ADHD leaders like yourself, mayhaps, and helps them break free from burnout. So her main passion is making people fall in love with their professional lives again and providing support and strategies and systems to help folks really work with their brains and not against them. So yeah, I am super excited to pass it on to her now. Just as one more little side note, if you're not a leader, that is a-okay. This is really a webinar for everyone. Anyone can benefit from this. I've had the pleasure of learning from Gina a couple of times now, and I've taken a whole lot away from the session, as have people who are not in leadership positions. So everyone is welcome during the session, and I really hope you get a lot out of it. But Gina, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bo. Welcome, everybody. And thank you so much for joining us today. So we're going to be talking about how to unlock an ADHD framework that's designed to break that procrastination cycle and helping us to get some work done without continuing the burnout cycle. So as Bo said, my name is Gina and I'm the founder of Kind2, and we are here to change the lives of 10,000 ADHD brains to break free of overwhelm and to create their version of success both in and out of the workplace. Before we go into the framework, I've got a couple of questions for you, which should come up on a poll on your screen in a second. So according to Adam in 2001, what percentage of adults with ADHD experience burnout symptoms? We've got three options, either 10%, 93%, or 50%. So what percentage of adults with ADHD experience burnout symptoms according to Adam? Three options, 10%, 93%, or 50%. Amazing. And then we got a question. I need to give you the answer before I give you the next question. So for those who added 93%, that's the percentage of people, 93% of people that answered that survey, which for me is a wild percentage. And I absolutely have felt those burnout symptoms many times. Question number 2. According to the World Health Organization, how many days do you think are lost, in inverted commas, in productivity for someone with ADHD each year? Again, we've got three options. We've got 1 day, 11 days, or 22 days. To give you that question again, how many days do you think are lost in productivity for someone with ADHD each year? And I've put lost in inverted commas because, work and how much productivity is different for different people. But according to this survey, we've got either 1 day, 11 days, or 22 days. And 22 days. And again, I can definitely resonate with this one. Absolutely resonate with this one. But it's not just lost days or burnout symptoms. The high prevalence of burnout and loss of productivity with ADHD brains often causes, I've got three more options. It can also cause, could it cause distress, frustration, or overwhelm, or all three? All three. And on top of this, our progression is often hindered. Being in the workplace is hard. I've been there for nearly 2 decades, and I know I don't look old enough. Thank you very much for noticing. And pretty much all of this was before I'd even considered I had ADHD. I've seen it. I've been in these situations more times than I can count, but there is another way. I believe that in the workplace, we all have some form of leadership in our roles, and having ADHD can often amplify the challenges that leadership brings. The day-to-day demands of a leader often feel never-ending. There's always something new. We've got something more, a new challenge, a new project, a new problem. And all of these require some kind of prioritization, some kind of planning, and also wrapped up in some kind of process. When we add ADHD into the mix, these struggles can amplify. And ADHD leaders, particularly when we're burned out, can encounter even more challenges with prioritization due to this intersection of ADHD traits and managerial and leadership demands. When we add overwhelm, feelings of rejection, and a lack of motivation to an already intense demanding job within a management role, it can feel impossible. And it means that many of us ADHD brains are stuck in the burnout cycle. Some signs that you could be stuck in the ADHD burnout cycle are things like decision fatigue, feeling like you're on 1% battery, unusually irritable, anxious, or apathetic. In this ADHD Aligned workshop, I'm going to show you how to tap into your interest-based nervous system so that you can beat procrastination and continue to excel in your role. So firstly, I'm going to give a bit of information. You don't need to read read these boxes or feel intimidated by them, no problem. I'm going to read through the text that's on the screen. So the concept of an interest-based nervous system was introduced by Dr. William Dodson. He explains that a person with an interest-based nervous system must be personally interested, challenged, find what they're doing novel or urgent, to be done right now, or nothing happens. We get this either I must do something immediately now, or that procrastination sets in. Some people are able to determine what's important and get motivated to do that when it doesn't interest them, which doesn't always work for ADHD brains. So an importance-based nervous system enables people to be motivated by tasks classified as important, and that's an external classification here. And the importance of these tasks may be tied to some kind of reward system or consequences. For example, if you don't do this, maybe this will happen, or rewards, if you do this, then you will get this. Need a sense of duty or societal expectation to get something done, and more responsive to external cues, such as avoiding nagging. An interest-based nervous system, on the other hand, motivated more by a personal interest or passion for something, thriving when aligned with those personal passions, needs internal motivation and engagement to sustain that interest, and external consequences are much less motivating. So a little bit about me. So I've burnt out many times whilst running multi-million-pound programs in the UK, both in the UK and also internationally. So on the surface, everything looked great, but underneath I had no self-confidence, kind of like a swan. Everything looks okay on the top, but paddling like anything underneath. I've been made redundant, I've become jobless, and fast forward to now, I've recovered from burnout. I run a successful business, I travel a lot, mainly around the Balkans because it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I've also learned to work with my brain. I've worked with many people, some amazing people and companies, for example, the Financial Times, which is a UK-based paper, Sainsbury's and John Lewis, who are big retailers in the UK, the National Health Service, Virgin Media O2, which is a big telecoms company, etc., etc. I've also worked with many founders and small startups and lots of businesses in between. And now, as I said at the beginning, I'm on a mission to help 10,000 ADHDers build the life that they deserve through ADHD coaching and educating. So what you came for today, the procrastination breaking framework, it aligns with how you tackle projects with your interest-based nervous system. So let's get started. Here's the cycle that we're breaking. This is the ADHD burnout cycle. It's also the project edition. So when we start a new project, we've got this high energy, this high interest, we're super excited to get started. We then move into this discovery type phase where we're still figuring out what we're doing, which intensifies the effort. We then go into that phase where we've got to do something now, and this is in this delivery phase, which is where our motivation starts dropping. We then get low energy and interest, and our productivity is decreasing and feeling increasingly frustrated we regain some momentum from somewhere, whether it's a time pressure or an immediacy or something else that we have to do something. And then miraculously, as we normally do, we deliver something, which then perpetuates this cycle because we know we can always do the thing, but it's absolutely exhausting and it can be excruciating if we don't have the tools to break out of this cycle. The procrastination breaking framework. So this can also happen at any point, and we're focusing today on a way to tap into the tool for when your motivation drops and you want a framework so you're not fighting yourself to regain that momentum. So you know you've got to do something, you know you've got to deliver something, create something, make something happen, but you feel distressed, frustrated, and overwhelmed, and you still end up doing it, but at what cost? So when we add the procrastination breaker framework in at the beginning, when you feel the motivation dropping, you've got something to tap into in 4 simple steps. The procrastination breaker framework enables you to tap into consistent motivation. And even if they're not explicit, there are many ways to prioritize things. I've got the Eisenhower matrix, for example, which helps you prioritize things based on importance, urgency. It then says you can ignore some things and delegate or delete some things. But these don't work always if you've got an interest-based nervous system. So in this workshop, we're going to tap into something that does, especially when you're lacking that motivation. And this can happen in many parts of our lives, especially when the thing that we're doing we feel or we consider to be boring. We're going to focus on an example of what happens when this motivation drops during a project. So I just tap my fidget pen on the table. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this process down into 4 steps. First, we're going to find ways to reach into our own version of dopamine, the things that really align with us. And then we're going to break down the big thing that we're supposed to be doing. We're going to then clarify what expectations, we're going to get some feedback, and then we're going to celebrate our progress. The framework is about reducing overwhelm, tapping into the interest-based nervous system, using 4 things that do enable us to stop procrastinating. When we've got a whole project to do, it can become so daunting. In this example, we're going to break down creating a project presentation for a piece of work that, I don't know, we need to showcase to our boss. The first step is around dopamine it. So dopamine in itself is a neurotransmitter and it plays a key role in motivation and pleasure. For those with ADHD, stimulating dopamine production can help overcome the initial hurdle of starting a task. For example, ways to dopamine it can be listening to your favorite song to get started, gamifying the task, creating your own reward system, or some social interaction. It's important to make this step highly engaging and also personal. So thinking of things that give you dopamine, so that the goal is stimulating to fuel your interest-based nervous system. For example, here we've got a non-ADHD aligned version, which is we need to finish the project by the end of the week. What's the project? How long is it going to take? I'm not sure where to start. We go into our own dopamine system here. So here we've got showcasing our project's impact using things that excite me, like infographics, fun facts, and I'm going to do this by the end of the week. So that taps into urgency, taps into some interest that I have. I love jokes, I love memes, I love pictures, and also that urgency of a specific time frame, which is by the end of the week. The next step, all of these steps are crucial. This is crucial, especially when we're feeling overwhelmed by large, complex tasks. So in a non-ADHD example, we need to break this presentation down into 4 stages. We've got some research we need to do. We need to outline the presentation. We need to create the content. We then need to design it. And there's probably another bit of presenting it. We want to align that with our ADHD brains. So this is around and this is around changing the language that we use with ourselves. I will break this presentation down into smaller tasks. So in the example of the presentation, today's goal is to create 5 slides, just 5 slides. And this is for the presentation. And the 5 slides are introduction, who we are, what we've done, why we've done it, and what's next. This step aims to simplify the overall journey and make each part of the task feel approachable and less overwhelming. One of the things we can do here, probably links to to step 3, is around ticking things off as well. So the smaller the task, the quicker and easier it is to tick that thing off, which then further fuels our dopamine brain of completing things. Step 3 is around clarification. And in this step, it's around ensuring that the mini task or sub goal that we're doing is understood. And it's not just in terms of what needs to be done. Adding a layer of why something is important can be super helpful. For an ADHDer, the why can serve as an additional layer of interest, making each task even more engaging. This step is about aligning the task with the bigger picture, ensuring that we've got clarity of purpose, and also when we talk about object permanence, so if it's not right in front of us, it doesn't exist, we're creating that direct line of sight between the smaller task and also the ultimate goal. So in a non-ADHD aligned example, we need to understand the stakeholders' requirements and presentation guidelines. This is very vague. This could take us in lots of different directions. But if we make that a bit smaller, we make that a bit narrower and a bit more around clarification, we can say we're going to ask early based on the draft that we have created and find things in common with the people that we're presenting to. So could you clarify the audience for this task, for this presentation, for example? What are the metrics you'd like to use today? And also questions like, am I on the right track? And also, if not, what could we do to help me get on the right track? Because I've got this far through the process. And then for me, this is the best part because I love celebrating things, however big or small they are. And recognition and celebration are vital, especially for ADHD individuals who benefit immensely from positive reinforcement, acknowledging every small win and every milestone reached. We're celebrating progress, we're keeping that motivation high, and we're fueling the continued effort needed to reach our final goal. And in this case, it's about the final goal here is delivering the presentation. It's about creating that series of joyful and rewarding moments that maintain the high levels of engagement and satisfaction throughout the journey. And I think the language we use here is really important when we're speaking to ourselves about the piece of work that we're doing is a journey. It's not the only thing we're ever going to do. It's not, even though it feels really hard in the moment, it is a journey towards something else. And in this example, non-ADHD aligned, we're going to celebrate once the entire presentation on the entire project, even, which is an even bigger, loftier thing. Once we've completed it, that's when we're going to celebrate. If we flip that and make it ADHD aligned, what we're going to do is something fun as soon as we finished a milestone. So that milestone could be all the way back at the beginning when we're talking about creating the 5 slides of the presentation. So you could break it down even smaller and celebrate when we've done the introduction slide. For me, this process is experimental. So if something works for me, it might not work for you, and vice versa. And the beauty of this framework, it allows you to add your own spin on it. So taking this presentation, for example, I might want to celebrate after I've done every slide, or I might want to celebrate once I've done the whole presentation, because it gives me a goal to work towards, and then it also keeps me a bit more focused. Celebrating these goals can, as I said, keep that motivation high, and it fuels our continued effort needed to reach the final goal, creating those joyful and beautiful moments within the workplace to fuel our drive and our desire to finish the thing that we're doing. Even though if something's not quite there, we're creating that motivation by understanding how we can motivate ourselves. So to recap, we've got 4 stages. We've got dopamine, and at the end of this stage, at each stage, we're identifying what fun you want, that you need, what dopamine you need to get something going. For example, creating a presentation, for me to dopamine something, when I need to get started, I'll put on my favorite song, or I'll do a little dance before I get started, something to energize myself to start the thing. I think the other thing here I can also find really helpful is setting myself time trials. So going back to that gamification idea of how much of this presentation can I get done in 25 minutes? And then we can link that to section 4 when we celebrate it. And when I've done my own version of a time trial, like, oh, smashed it. And then it continues to fuel that positive reinforcement, whether it's I'm giving it to myself or whether I'm looking for it externally with peers or with managers. The second step is around breaking things down, so making each task as small as you can. Step 3 is around clarification, and that's around gathering feedback and aligning expectations. So the thing that you're doing that you've broken down still aligns with the wider goal. And this example is a presentation. And then the final step here is around celebration. And we could use this in many different spaces. So, for example, getting started on how to set up a project, preparation for a meeting. What do you want to get out of networking? How to approach starting a business? Get started on a presentation, as we've spoken through today. What you want to look at, maybe what does progression look like for you? Setting up or running a team building day. These steps work for, little asterisk, almost anything. Yeah, so that's the framework. They're the stages that we go through to unlock our own dopamine to then break that procrastination cycle that we can get stuck in when we're not sure or when we're feeling a bit demotivated in something. This gives us, because we found it inside of ourselves, what motivation we need to finish something. If you want to find out more about Kind 2 and what we do, please scan the QR code. The left-hand side is also a picture of me, but I'm also on your screen. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand back to Bo quickly, and then I think we'll go into some questions.
Amazing, gorgeous. So a couple of things on our end. If you are not yet a Tiimo user, here is a gorgeous little discount that you can use. You can also share it with your friends, family, partners, whatever. You can use the QR code here, or we're going to send out an email after with the slides and a recording, and you can also use the QR code in that. And then the next little slide is just, if you don't know, we host Body Doubling. I'm actually one of the hosts. There's 8 other amazing hosts who host sessions all throughout the day. And all of our body doubling offerings are going to be free for the months of July and August. So if you've ever wanted to try out body doubling, you can easily do it in app, whether or not you're a premium user. It is going to be open to everybody. So if you want to share this with a pal who maybe would benefit, if you want accountability buddies, I've really found some amazing community in body doubling, and I'm not just saying that because I'm biased. I really highly recommend checking it out. And if you ever have any feedback or ideas for sessions like this that you want to see, or themed body doubling sessions or anything, you can always send me an email. I'm going to put my email in the chat. You can reach out to me whenever you want to. But does anyone have any questions for Gina? I see one question in the Q&A. If you have anything else, please do slap it in the Q&A or into the webinar chat. And then we are going to ask our little questions. Yay, love the body doubling sessions. I recognize that name. Hi. Okay, the first question in the Q&A, is it possible to have a hybrid interest versus importance-based nervous system? I seem to align with importance-based needs.
Yeah, I think so. I think that these are concepts, and I think for me, the beauty of language and concepts are we can align to things that align with us. So if you resonate more with an importance-based nervous system, but some of the interest-based nervous system, things that we've spoken about today resonate as well, amazing. Yeah, I think it's hybrid. Language is a beautiful thing, and we can take what we want out of these systems.
Amazing. And then what are some examples of small celebrations?
Small celebrations. I quite like to do a little celebration dance. So when I've done something, I'm like, oh, I've done the thing. Whether it's moving in my chair, celebrating by going outside. If you've got some kind of grass nearby, I really like the feeling of grass under my feet, for example. So touching some kind of nature. whether or not it's making your favorite cup of tea, cup of coffee, some you could spend, I don't know, 5 minutes watching your favorite TV show, or give yourself the beauty of time and space, whether or not that's a couple of breaths. Um, Also, I think the flip to that is what do you find joyful? Because what I find joyful can be very different to what will be very different to what other people find joyful, and lean into that. So if there's something that you find particularly joyful, then lean into it. I think there probably is a thing around I don't know, spending too much time on our phones and that kind of stuff. So I think it's worth being mindful of what we're using to get our dopamine. Um, could spend a bit of time Googling fun activities in my local area.
Amazing. Just a little side note for the Android users. So Learn is actually not available on Android yet. Please send me an email. Right after this, I'm gonna create a little portal so you can see all the body doubling sessions and access them for free anyways, even if you don't have the Learn tab. So just pop me an email and I'll send you the link. The link stays the same always, so you can access them regardless of whether or not you have an iOS device. Okay, anyways, let's see, what's the next question? How do you manage in a team environment where team members introduce distractions? Really good one.
Well, really great question. I think it would, for me, about understanding what each team member needs. So going back to what your team charter is, and what a team charter is sitting down together and saying, this is what we as a team sign up to as our unit, and then going back to that. So if we have a, I don't know, if it can be a challenging conversation to say, this this thing that's happening is causing distraction to me, maybe we could come back to it in X amount of minutes, hours. And I think it comes back to how comfortable you feel having those challenging conversations, whether or not you could reach out to a manager. I think it's really important that a team understand how each other best work, because we see such a small version of each other's lives. Like, you can see the screen and what's behind me right now. We don't know. And I think starting with kindness, of some self kindness and some team kindness, of, is somebody, like, what's the distraction for? Maybe there's something going on with that person. We don't know. So always start with that lens of kindness when we're thinking about other people distracting us.
Yes. And then Ryan asks, might have missed this, but what are some examples of how to dopamine it? And how long
Awesome.
should sessions last?
Oh, really good question. I think in terms of how long they last, the beauty of these kind of frameworks is you can experiment and try different things. I find 25 minutes quite a nice amount of time if I set myself a time trial for doing something. And I think that comes from the Pomodoro technique. So set myself an alarm, a notification that will come up every 25 minutes. And also the thing with the Pomodoro technique that I like to adapt on is, if I'm still interested, I'm still doing something, you can then actively continue. But I do give myself a notification every 25 minutes just to remind me that I might need to walk, or I might need to get a drink, or I might need to eat something. So it gives kind of the some gates to stop the impulsivity of hyper focus and to continue. It doesn't work for everybody. These are the kind of things that I found really helpful. Dopamining it, I think we covered that just a second ago, but things like, what natural space do you have around you? Is that something that you find interesting? Can you do a happy dance? Is there something around, I don't know, the space that you're in? Looking at what brings you joy and then bringing that in to that dopamine section.
I love that. Touch grass, everyone. Marianne asks,
Absolutely.
would you have any, so sorry, would you have any additional suggestions regarding managing people, especially in regards to aligning with everyone to keep things going smoothly, which can take you away from your own state and experience?
I think it goes, I think the starting point is the communication. And also, if you as a team have a shared set of values and understanding of what each other needs, it can then help move away from this is affecting me, and also we can kind of push it not necessarily to the side, but we can talk about us as people versus the problem, and it kind of takes the emotion out of one person versus another. So we're looking to do this thing right now, this isn't necessarily going smoothly, how can we approach this together to get to that end goal, rather than, I don't know, this thing's really frustrating. Well, you can also use the model, this thing is really frustrating me, this is the impact it's having, this is what I would like to do next. Yeah, they're the kind of things that I would consider. And also kind of what do you need, going back to your own needs of, in order for me to work at my best, these are the types of things that I need. And then if you don't feel comfortable speaking in front of a whole team about that, that's absolutely fine. We can use the beauty of the network effect of speaking to one other person about it, and then maybe that person collectively says, oh, I understand, I resonate with that, and then we start talking more as a team of, these are the things that we need in order to get stuff done. This is how we can support ourselves and also each other in this situation.
Yes. And then I work long shifts at work. Just this person would like a session on breaking down long work days, but do you have any tips for someone who has really long work days as an ADHDer?
Yeah, I think it's the balance of the rest in the work time, and the we're also understanding the constraints of the environment that we're in, but also how much we can push up against those. In order for, as an example, in order for me to get my bed, I'm much better in the mornings than the afternoons, as an example. Um, these are the types of things I would like to do in the mornings. So deep work, big brain stuff I tend to do in the mornings. Things that I don't know, like conversations, calls, things like this, I would much prefer to do in the afternoons. So if there's a way of managing your workload like that, so maybe some a bit of identification of, these are the types of work that you do and where you do those best. For example, if you're struggling with the Pomodoro technique, again, not all of these things work for everybody, and that's okay. These are tools to dip in and out of. If you think of I don't know, a toolkit, if you're fixing a kitchen, you're not going to use all of the tools all at the same time, picking and choosing the right thing and also experimenting with different things.
Yes. And then you already hinted at the Pomodoro technique, but how do you balance self-care when you're finally able to focus and get hyperfixated on the project slash task, but getting stuck in that, and if you pause, finding your way back to that is very difficult. Yes.
Yeah, I think there's some, I think the active and I think it's about the active versus passive. And sometimes, for me anyway, I know that hyperfocus can be, I don't know if it's a passive act, I'm not sure what the right word is, but sometimes I feel like I'm driven by a motor, and the stopping piece is about the being kind to myself, knowing that rest is also really important, and going back to the framework around what things give you dopamine in order to help you then get started again, because rest is so important for us. Even if we think we can go on for hours and hours and hours, and then I don't know, I've been doing something, I don't know, I was saying to Bo earlier, I spent 4 hours creating a floor plan because I wanted to change my kitchen, for example. I got so fixated and then realized, oh, actually, I need to move. Um, it, for me, in that time, there were some active moments of, am I still okay to continue? Yep, still okay to continue. Nope, now I need to stop. Whether or not, like, the time blindness means that we can go on for quite a long time, and using, I don't know, notifications or alarms, or if we've got somebody else around, an accountability buddy, and using these things like tools in a toolkit and experimenting and finding what works for you.
Mm. Yes. And I will say, as someone who really struggles with time stuff, Uh, not to make this another body doubling plug, you do not have to use Tiimo body doubling, but like that structure has actually helped me so much because there's like built-in breaks that someone like forces you to take basically. And that helps so much with like actually getting up and doing the thing to take care of yourself, because I used to just not drink water for like 9 hours and then be like, why do I feel terrible? And like, doink, that's why. So yeah, it's really great.
So,
Um,
would you be able to give like a really quick overview of what body doubling is for if anybody's like got any questions about it?
Absolutely. So it is a technique where you work with another person or group, either virtually or in person, just to focus together. And it does not necessarily have to be like hard productivity. It can be like painting your nails or doing self-care things or, working on a school project. It can really be anything that feels better to do in community and with other people around. And that's something we really stress in the Tiimo body doubling sessions, because we don't, obviously people are encouraged to get the things done that are on their minds, but like we also want people to make sure that they rest and take care of themselves. So it is a really nice balance that we found in the sessions. There's fun music, all of our sessions are online, and then we have 8 facilitators who are all across the world, so that's really sweet. And hopefully there's someone who like strikes your fancy and works in the kind of way that you work. But yeah, that's kind of a small overview. Yes. Does anyone else have any questions for Gina slash for me? Is there anything else out there? Gina, do you want to pull up this slide one more time where folks can find you? And we're going to make sure to share her website in the follow-up email as well. So, um, not drinking water. Yeah, it's so bad. It is so bad. I used to like also just forget food existed and I would like shake at the end of the day. And in my silly brain, I was like, I should take more magnesium, but it's like, no, I just had not eaten for like the whole day. So very silly brains we have. Yeah.
I find I live by my calendar. And I found in the Google Calendar, they've got this thing called tasks, which means I can actually also tick it off. So whether that's something like I need to go for a walk or I need to drink or I need to finish this thing, the idea of I guess the tactileness of ticking something off can also push my brain into remembering to do the thing for my body that I need to do.
Yes, nothing like ticking something off the list. It's so
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right. I mean, if no one else has any questions, if there's anything that you think of, late tonight that you are just burning to ask, we're going to make sure to include both Gina and my contact info in the follow-up email. Like I said, in a couple of hours, once the recording has downloaded and all that stuff, you're going to get an email with the recording so you can watch it back. It's also going to be transcribed, so you'll have that, and you can also access the slides. So all the resources that Gina shared are going to be in your inbox in a couple of hours. Make sure to check your spam folder if it doesn't show up by like tonight, wherever you are. And yeah. Oh, okay. Body doubling question. How do you find people who need quiet to function? Yes. Okay. So there's actually a couple of really great like resources where you can find different kinds of body doubling. I know Flown has some, Inflow. There's a ton of different body doubling structures out there. And the bigger the like organization or whatever gets, there's going to be more options. At Tiimo, for example, we use this platform called Butter, where you can actually turn the music off. So we have some lo-fi usually playing, but you can actually turn it off on your end. And otherwise, Reddit is a really great resource to find people to body double with as well, if you want a smaller kind of space. And then I'm forgetting, I think it's called Flow Club, where they assign you to like one person. So there's so many different ways to body double out there. And as Tiimo's offerings grow as well, we're going to start having theme sessions. We have different lengths of sessions. We have facilitators who facilitate different ways. So there's a lot of different options out there to try. Yeah. Is body doubling usually free? I will say it is usually not in like Flow Club or Flown is a membership kind of thing. If you do it with your pals, obviously it's free. With Tiimo, it is free for now, and then it's gonna be a part of the regular subscription from September on again. But yeah, there is really like a really broad range of like pricing for body doubling. Okay, and then there's one more question for you, Gina. Any tips on rage? I easily get unstable from difficult distractions.
Yeah, really great question. For me, it's around connecting to my breath and connecting back into my body. So whether or not for a really good technique is the box breathing technique. So if you think of the number four, so you breathe in for four, you hold for four, you breathe out for four, and you hold for four. One of the really great things here, closing your eyes, um, visualizing a square so the breaths are the same sort of length, and do it 4 times. So the only thing you need to remember is the number four, and it's about connecting back to your breath and reconnecting to it's such a long word, the parasympathetic nervous system. I always get confused with that word. Parasympathetic. The more I say it, the harder it's going to be. But reconnecting your breath and your body together can be really helpful.
Yes. Another thing that has worked really well for my higher support needs ADHD partner is we set up a like basically like a stim basket for them, or like a regulation basket that has like some of their favorite like um things that just like help them get back in their body, whether it's like a chew toy or something to like hold, something tactile, even like a sour candy to just like get you back into the space that you're in. It's a different kind of distraction, but I find that it really works well for them to just like have something that they can like control better. So really, really great option if you can just like throw a basket together. That's your like emergency setup. Yeah. Cool. All righty. Well, then I think we're at the end. Is there anyone else who has any last questions? We can stick around for another like 2 minutes or so, but otherwise I wish y'all a gorgeous rest of your day. If you want to try body doubling, there's actually a session happening right now. There's also going to be another one in basically until tonight. So you're welcome to join those. Like I said, they're free. You can join with the link that I shared earlier. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And here's the link again if anyone wants to join. Wishing you a gorgeous, gorgeous rest of your day, and I'll see y'all hopefully soon.
Thank you, folks. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Ooh, okay. One more
Oh,
question from Kate. Any
yeah.
suggestions for overwhelm when things get too hectic with work demands? Yes, and this leading to mutism for their daughter. Yeah.
I think a similar couple of things to what Bo and I were talking about just a second ago. One around reconnecting with your breath, around finding some time and some space. And this doesn't mean, I can imagine there's so many things going on around you in that moment. So it doesn't always, if you're not able to get out of the physical space, to find some space inside yourself, whether that's through breath, but whether that's through the emergency toolkit that you've put together, whether that's the stim toys, the sour candy, the chew toys, something really tactile. So I don't know if you've noticed that I've got a pen in my hand. The reason this pen is so important to me is because everything about it moves and it feels really nice to me. So by having something tactile also brings me back to my body. That can be super helpful.
And then there was a question, I came in late. Do you have any good, I guess, links, resources on the Pomodoro technique?
I would Google it, Google the Pomodoro technique, and the first couple of links will be the best ones.
Yes. I know there's a Tiimo article out there that for sure pops up as one of the first things as well. And there's a routine in the app as well that you can try if you ever want to like have it already structured for you. Yes.
Nice.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. It was so nice to be with y'all. Any parting words from you, Gina?
Thank you so much. I think the most important thing here that we've spoken about at the end is around reconnecting with your breath. You, what we live in our own bodies is the most beautiful thing we can hold. So reconnection to the breath.
Yes. And I'm going to close out by saying follow Gina and her work. She's amazing. She's amazing to work with. Learn from her, get coached by her, all that good stuff. I really highly recommend. And if y'all have any ideas for future sessions you want to see with Gina / with Tiimo, please do reach out to me. We are definitely going to be talking to Gina about future sessions to host, so you can send me an email with any ideas that you have. Amazing. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I'll close the session out and you'll get a recording in a couple of hours. All right. Bye,
Thank you so
everyone.
much, Vic. See you soon.